this video, I will show the API Manager, which provides one place to manage full cycle of the REST APIs. This reduces tool switching and speeds operations. Customers can define reusable rate limit policies and apply them across APIs to reduce configuration drift and keep governance consistent. The functionality is linked to existing partner channels, so there is no need to maintain a new gateway layer or parallel configuration. You can access API Manager from the Home dashboard or from the Integration menu. Let's open one of the REST APIs. So we start with the basic settings of the API. Then we have the MET information. The information written here will be transferred to the Open API specification. API tab includes all the endpoints which we have here defined. So let's open the first one. So as you can see here, it's connected to one of the profiles. So let's open the profile. So the source structure has two main things, ID, which is integer, and value, which is a string. So their target structure includes output of the string type and the timestamp. So let's go back. So here you also can see the input type, which basically comes from the input of the profile. And you have the output type and the response content. So now let's have a look on the advanced settings. So here you have two tabs. So first of all, we have the Open API status codes. So here you can define the additional status codes for the Open API specification. So, in our case, there are two more defined, 408 for the timeout and 422. The policy settings define how many requests do allow for this particular API in the defined time frame. In our example, this is 2 requests allowed within 5 seconds. As you can see, this is a global policy. It means this policy is defined to all their APIs. Doesn't matter from which kind of partner channel this is called. So let's change this policy to the restricted policy, so I can show you how this works also and how this is connected to the partner and channel. So let's click Apply here, save, and let's go to the partners. So I will be using this demo partner. So here on the information, you see that the policy applied to this partner is restricted. So you cannot even choose here the global policy because it's applied to everything. So then we have our HTTPS channel. So here we can use the information in order to authenticate to our API. So the client ID and the secret ID, this is exactly what I will be using. So now let's go back to the API Manager. And here, now, we can go to the Open API documentation by clicking this link. So here in the header, you see information which comes from the Meta Information tab, which I was showing before. So we have our 4 APIs defined here. So we have the request body, which is including the ID and value. So you can also check the structure itself with the types defined. And then we have responses for the success. We have the output and timestamp, what is defined on the profile. And then we have 2 more status codes, 408 and 422, which we defined in the advanced settings. Now let's try and call this API, and in order to do this, we need to authorize, and I will be using the client ID and client secret from the channel, which I was just showing you before. So I have a client ID at the client secret authorized, so it's successful. So now let's try it out. Let's change the value. Let's execute. So now you see that the API was executed, we have our output and we have our timestamp. So now I can click it one more time. As you see, the timestamp has changed. The output is still the same. They will be faster. So you see that now I reached this limit, which is defined in the policy, and that's why it now says too many requests. So as I was mentioned before, this is maximum 2 requests within 5 seconds. So now let's click again. So we see it's working again. The timestamp is also updated, and now let's try and call this API with some wrong values. Let's click execute, and as we see, we now have 222 with some messages that the type is wrong. So basically, now we see that the API is working. We can test it from here. We can call and we can have a check of the policies which we set up. And basically this complete the demo. So we manage REST API from one place. We configured the policy, we viewed the open API specification, and we called our API using the Swagger UI, and we tested the functionality. Thank you for watching.